because it is bringing new faces into our building every single month. And for those of you who've lived in Tampa for a long time and this is your first time here, shame on you, but here. We've only been here 90 years. You haven't missed much. In fact, we've been here almost exactly 90 years. We opened on October 15, 1926. So in just a couple of weeks, we are going to be celebrating our 90th birthday. And we have some really exciting 90th birthday plans that we're not quite ready to announce yet, but hopefully, especially you new folks, you will find so many reasons to come back and visit us, and maybe October 15th will be among those. What you are standing in right now was designed by a gentleman named John Everson. This is actually one of the best preserved examples of an Everson theater left in the country, and according to his writings at the time, one of his favorite theaters that he built. John Everson was a Chicago-based architect, and back in the 20s, he was building theaters all over the country. Now keep in mind, in 1926, movie theaters were kind of a new architectural form. Movies haven't been around that long, so these movie palaces were going up all over the country. Everson was challenged. He was asked if he could find a cheaper way to build movie theaters. Because up to that point, people had been building movie palaces that were a lot like the other theaters that people were familiar with. And the theaters that other people were familiar with at the time were opera houses. So picture your favorite opera house. A lot of blank looks. Marble floors, marble columns, gold leaf accents, crystal chandeliers, red velvet everywhere. Beautiful, very expensive building. And when we're talking about the tickets for an opera, maybe you can support that, or patrons can support that. But when you're talking about a movie theater where the average ticket cost was between 5 and 25 cents, it was hard to build on that kind of money, the opulence that they had seen with the opera houses. So here comes Everson. He built a couple of those opera houses, but then he started trying to figure out how to build just as elaborate, just as beautiful, but a lot cheaper. And what you're standing in is what he came up with. It's what he called an atmospheric theater. Now the concept of an atmospheric is really easy for my little guests to understand. I've got a little one over here and a little one right here in front of me. Have you guys been to Disney World? No? How about Universal Studios? Maybe Harry Potter? Those are atmospheric experiences. They pull you out of Central Florida into a new place, a new world. That's what Everson was trying to do. Here in Tampa, he wanted to build a Mediterranean courtyard. This is what he came up with. And when we get into the auditorium, you're going to see even more so what he came up with and how he was able to do that. So in 1926, the cost to build this building was only $1.5 million. Now, no small change, but it's only $1.5 million. It's a fraction of what it costs to build those other palaces. And the reason is because of building material. Most of what you're looking at here is plaster. Other than the tile on the floor, which is real tile, all of the tile along the walls is actually molded plaster. The wooden beams in the ceiling, the tiles on the roof, the stone gargoyles, those are all molded plaster. They can be molded off-site up north, brought down here, assembled, and painted in place. So for $1.5 million and a time period of about 1.5 years, we came up with Tampa Theater. Any questions on that? Okay, we're going to go upstairs and we're going to show you a really cool part. But before we do, I asked for a little bit of cooperation from you guys. We are going to be opening the doors for a movie at 7 o'clock. If you'd like to stay for the movie, just grab a ticket from the folks at the box office. Tonight we're showing a film called Don't Think Twice. It was written and directed by and stars comedian Mike Birbiglia, some other comedic faces that you will recognize. New movie just came out. It's very, very funny. But when we open the doors at 7 o'clock for that movie, we have to be out of the auditorium. So we're going to go upstairs, we're going to look around, we're going to talk some more. But when I say, okay guys, we all have to go, we all have to go. Even if you have a ticket for the movie already, you need to come back out and then see this gentleman right here who will scan your ticket and let you back into the auditorium. So no stragglers, so I don't lose my job? Fair enough? All right, we're going to come upstairs.
Yes, baby.
On both sides.
From Tampa? I'm from Chris River, it's like an hour and a half north. Yeah. Same thing. Yeah, I mean, I call it Tampa only because nobody knows exactly what the hell that is. It's alright, straight up 19. Okay. Hour north on 19. What's happening? No, I know. I actually live over 5 years still. And he's lived here.
I know. So at 7 o'clock,
Okay.
close all these doors and go away.
Yeah, literally right behind the house.
Oh, here.
She does a good job. She does, yeah. You know,
Do you know Chad?
it's actually the same for
The boxer.
Oh, yeah. No problem. So I had to go to my look at that. That's a cool bathroom.
No.
Yeah.
We did like a charity event.
Oh yeah, he's super active.
Yeah.
It seems like a nice.
Yeah, sure. For fun stuff.
No, I looked it up today. Which is still bad.
Really does.
That was the same face I made the first time I came here on a field trip in high school. So kids, be careful. Those field trips in high school, sometimes a couple decades later, we're not going to talk about that, you end up working there full time. And you get to come here every day, and this is your office. And it's pretty awesome. So a lot of the questions as people were coming up had to do with what's original and what's not original. So let's spend a little bit of time on that, and then talk a little bit about what you're seeing. What is original? All of this plasterwork. Now, it has been painted over. We know that it's been painted over at least twice in the history of the building. We also know that it was painted over with not exactly quite the same colors. Close, but actually what you're looking at is not as vibrant. Are you waving at her? Okay, just one minute. Not as vibrant. We know that the original colors are actually a little bit brighter. And so someday, when we get to do the full restoration of the paint in this auditorium, we will go back to those original colors. We have the right people, the right contractors who can scrape down, get that original color, and take us back to what she looked like in 1926. But actually, the paint is the last step. When you are renovating, restoring a 90-year-old building, if any of you have old houses that you've gone through this with, you know, you have to start inside the walls. You have to start with the wiring and the plumbing and the HVAC. And actually, Tampa Theater was the first commercially air-conditioned building in Tampa. So yes, we do have some really old HVAC in this building. What else is original? The seats are not. These were put in the 70s. They were put in during a period of time that we underwent some changes. Now, if you come on the full tour that we do twice a month, we will tell you the whole history of what was going on in the country, what was going on in the movie industry, and why it is we almost had to close in the late 60s and early 70s. But we were saved. The city of Tampa saved us. We are now owned by the city, in fact. But there was a period of time for about 3 years in the 70s that we were inhabited, air-conditioned, maintained, but not open to the public. And it was during those 3 years that what restoration has been done in the building's history was done. The original seats, which were stuffed with horsehair, by the way, so we're all glad they're not still here, were replaced with the seats you see now. Also during that time period, the stage that you're looking at behind me was built. Because keep in mind, in 1926, movies were silent. So we had a 21-piece orchestra that would accompany the films. And the stage that you're looking at is actually built over what used to be the orchestra pit. So that front wall was there, and our Wurlitzer organ was there. And thank you, whatever goes to that stage, set that up for us. But yes, we did have a mighty Wurlitzer theater organ. It was original to the building and would also help accompany those films. In the 50s, it was taken out of the building. It was actually sold to a church. In the 70s, it was brought back from the church and reinstalled. So even though it has had a little bit of an adventure, it is the same original organ that was put in the building in 1926. The console that you're looking at, though, not original. And any of the organists will tell you that that you see on the stage is not the organ. That is just the control panel, the cockpit to the 747. The original pieces are actually all above the arch, and in these two behind the false balconies, what look like windows, those are our organ chambers, and that's where all 1,400 pipes of the pipe organ rest. We actually still have a core of volunteer organists that play before almost every single show. So if you come and see a movie here, even if it's just some random Tuesday night, for about 15 minutes before the show, there will be an organist that plays that organ for you. Part of the plan for the birthday on October 15th, I'm not going to reveal all the secrets, but every once in a while we like to go back to our roots as a silent movie palace. So part of that birthday on October 15th will be a screening of Buster Keaton's The Cameraman. It's a silent film. We have a guest organist from Atlantic City who comes down and plays our silent films for us a couple of times a year. His name is Stephen Ball, and he is an incredibly talented musician. Because a lot of those films, even though the films still exist, there are still film prints, they can make digital copies of them, the scores for those movies are gone. So not only does Stephen play a whole silent movie, but he writes the score for it first, and brings that with him, and then plays the movie. And I guarantee you, if you've seen silent movies on Turner Movie Classics, you've heard the tickly little piano with all the commercials in between, not the same thing. Come here to a movie palace that was built for that kind of performance, and I guarantee you will forget that there's a human being sitting up there playing every single note of the movie that you're watching. So, what else is original? Well, Tampa Theater is actually considered to be one of the most haunted buildings in Tampa. So we tend to think that some of our original inhabitants are still here, and probably sharing the seats with some of you. In fact, later tonight, after you all have moved on, after our film screening is over, we have a group of folks from Genesis Paranormal Services coming in to do an investigation for us. We've worked with GPS for years. They're wonderful people, and they have helped us do our Halloween event every year. So they're coming in tonight to take some more video, to take some more photos, to hopefully capture some more evidence. More, because there already is some. That we can unveil at Halloween when we do our late night lights off paranormal tour. We also do some regular ghost tours during October. There's several of them scheduled, in fact, and they've already gone on sale. But it's about an hour and a half when we walk through the building and tell all of the ghost stories. The most famous of which has to do with our projectionist, Fink Finley. If you Google Tampa Theater Ghost, that's the one you're going to come up with most likely. He was here from 1930 to 1965 in life, worked 6 days a week projecting the films out of the projection booth up there. And when he died in 1965, not in this building, he collapsed in this building, he was taken home, where he died a couple of weeks later. All of our projectionists that have worked here ever since have told us that they think Fink is probably still here, probably still coming to work 6 days a week. And it has to do with, well, they're up in the booth by themselves. That can be a kind of a lonely job. And they're watching out the window watching the screen, especially when we used to project 35mm. And you had to switch back and forth from one projector to the other as the reels ran out. They said that as they were watching the screen, waiting for that moment to change over, waiting for those little pops and crackles in the corner to come at the time, they would feel somebody tapping on their shoulder. In fact, some of the evidence that I told you we have from Genesis Paranormal already is a piece of video. One of their investigators standing up in the booth one night. He didn't know that story. He knew about fame, but he didn't know the particulars. And what we have is video of him standing in a room, nothing behind him, nothing around him, and all of a sudden you see the back of his shirt hitch, and he grabs his shoulder. When he came out, he was, a little odd. I said, "What happened?" He said, "Oh, I felt like I got poked in the shoulder." So Fink was making sure he knew he was there. We'll tell all the stories. We'll show that video. We'll show some of the photos and some of the audio clips in October. So again, I hope you can come back and join us for that. Any questions about any of that? Any questions in general? Let's see what our time looks like. And then, 11 minutes. Let's just answer questions. Statues are original. Again, Emerson was able to mold all of this out of plaster off-site and then ship it down. So if you've ever been in another Emerson theater in the country, and there are several left, the nearest one's actually in Miami, you will see some of the same statues, some of the same columns, but never assembled in quite the same way. So he used those molds over and over again, and each one was put together just a little bit different. There was a question up here. Maybe? Am I making that up? Okay. Yeah, person that fell into the organ pit. Actually, there's been a couple of people that have fallen into the organ pit. My predecessor, Tara, who was the director of marketing before me, fell into the organ pit. And one of our projectionists, the guy by the name of Bill, fell into the organ pit. As you saw, the organ can rise up and down. That makes it really convenient when the show starts. We can sing it down into the stage and not ruin the sight lines for people sitting down there. But it does leave a giant gaping hole in the stage. So we all try to be very careful. Every once in a while, somebody loses their balance or doesn't pay attention. Now, nobody's ever been seriously hurt. I believe Tara did end up going to the hospital just to get some x-rays, but nobody has perished as a result of such a...
The guy who brings down from Atlantic City to play the World Series.
Yes.
Does he play at Boardwalk Hall there?
He is the curator of the Boardwalk Hall.
Because they have a really big, cool organ there.
It is. He tells me that is. The question was, does he play the Atlantic Boardwalk Hall organ? The guy we bring down from Atlantic City. In fact, he is the curator for that instrument. And he tells me that it is the dream job for a theater organist in this country. And I asked him how many dream jobs there are for theater organists in the country. And he said, well, 2. And I said, how many theater organists are in the country? Yeah, like 3.
The actual reliefs, where does the inspiration or model come from for those?
That's a great question. Where did the inspiration come from for all of this? I wish I had a better answer than this, but we have art historians come in and see this. We've had architectural experts come in and look at it and talk about kind of what time period was inspirational or what style. And the answer is kind of yes. It's got a little bit of everything. If you look at just the statues alone, we've got Christopher Columbus, we've got Greek and Roman mythology, we've got the Roman senators, we've got other characters. If you look in the arch, if you get up close to it, all of these little kind of swoops that come down are all faces. So there's actually, we like to joke, there's more faces in the architecture looking at the audience than there is the audience looking at the stage. But there are so many animals and figures and everything that, it was just, Emerson lost no opportunity to work a detail into something. In fact, great example, if you look up on the parapets here, there's a couple of lighted urns. We have a piece up in our office. We actually keep a box of spare theater urns. Whenever something falls off, it goes in the box, and it'll all get replaced someday. But it's this beautiful little brass medallion with figures and an animal. And we come to find out it was from the top of one of those urns. So it's a place that nobody will ever see. Nobody will ever be fine detail that was put into it, and yet it was important enough to Everson to put those on top of all of these things.
Two questions. One, when you do the price of money for, are the lights in here on? Can you see each other?
It's a little bit more lit, but to be honest with you, there is not a ton more light in here.
Okay.
It is, we talk about how everybody looks better in candlelight, and so does the theater. So there are some work lights, some very bright work lights across the back and across the stage, but as far as ambient lighting, you're looking at it. This is
Okay,
pretty much
second
it.
question. The skyline, is that
Yes.
part of the original building of the theater?
Yes, the skies, that part of the original theater, and that atmospheric feeling, trying to transport you, the sky was a big part of it. So the blue sky, the stars, there are actually 99 stars when they're all lit, none of them are burnt out. That was all part of it. You may also see some striations in the sky or clouds. That was original as well. Those clouds are on a glass disc in front of a projector over here on the rooftop. And as the show goes on, it rotates very slowly. So those clouds very slowly drift across the sky. Again, all of that was part of the original design. He was asking about field trips, field trip person here, first trip to Tampa Theater. In fact, we host about 35,000 school kids in a year on field trips. In a lot of cases, it's their first experience at the theater. Although we can't do a lot of live performances, we get questions all the time about, why don't you do Broadway shows here? It'd be beautiful. The answer is because that is it for the stage. That's all we've got. But it's perfect for small performances, bits and pieces puppet theater, American Stage, their youth series. Shows that can come in, load in the morning, do 1 or 2 productions during the day, and then be gone in time for our film at night. So yes, absolutely, we still do those shows. Yes, we are very happy that Everson was thinking when he put 99 light bulbs in the ceiling that he gave us a series of catwalks, both above the ceiling and around the rooftops, so we can reach all of those lighting instruments. We do not have to bring out the big ladder.
The holes.
The holes. Air vents. Really, really pretty air vents. The big circular ones.
No, the 2 rows of holes.
Oh!
The portholes.
I'm going to guess also air vents because they're at the top of the projection booth and it gets super duper hot up there. But I don't know for sure. I have to ask something. Oh, yes, no, there are no constellations to the stars that we know of anyway. They're just scattered. And the ones that twinkle do twinkle on purpose. That was part of the design.
What happened to the statue on the right?
What happened to the statue on the right? There never was one. That's actually an access door. There's a curtain there, and you can get into our very, very small backstage area.
Can you buy a membership to the theater for a gift for yourself?
What a great question! Remind me to give you $20 later. How do you buy a membership to the theater? Yes. How many of you realize that we are actually a nonprofit organization? We are, oh, that was not nearly that way. We are. The building is owned by the city, but it is operated by a 501c3, the Tampa Theater Foundation. There's a reason why they don't build one-screen, 1,400-seat theaters anymore, because it is a complete failure of a business model. That said, we program about 600 shows and events a year in here, between movies, small concerts, field trips, tours, weddings, corporate events. We open the doors 600 times a year. Because of that, we earn about 60% of our operating budget through ticket sales and concessions. That means we have to raise about 40% of our operating budget. Our operating budget is about $2 million a year. But we have to raise that through memberships, corporate sponsorships and partnerships, donations. We are very lucky to have some great supporters in the community. But we do sell memberships. And those memberships from the low level get you free refills on popcorn and soda and discounts upper levels, you actually get free movie tickets and free concessions and a party on the stage and all kinds of cool stuff. There are flyers downstairs that say join us right at the top. So, if you've been here before and you'd like to come back a whole lot more, I encourage you to look into that. If you're brand new, I won't force you into joining tonight. Come back and see us one more time or two, and then decide if maybe Tampa Theater would be a great place to spend some of your philanthropic dollars. Any local groups? Sometimes, and by sometimes I mean sometimes people will rent the theater to do performance. We are one of the host locations for the Florida Thespians every year when they do their big convention here in Tampa. But because of all those other 600 shows, it does become hard to, at some point we are maxed out. And Phil